Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a really detailed proposal for how a company, say like Tesla, could regain our trust in self-driving cars. This is a technology that promises a total revolution, but right now, it's kind of stuck in this cloud of doubt and suspicion.
So, here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, we're going to define the core dilemma. Then, we'll dig into the safety and ethical stuff that's making everyone so nervous. After that, we'll map out the whole challenge using this strategic framework, and that'll lead us to a proposed multi-year solution. And finally, we'll take a look at the long road ahead.
All right, let's get into it. Before we can even start talking about solutions, we really have to get a handle on the central conflict, the real dilemma at the heart of all this autonomous driving tech.
And here it is, laid out plain and simple. On one side, you have this incredible promise, right? Fewer accidents from human error, way more mobility for people who need it, smoother traffic, the whole dream. But then, there's the other side, the peril. And it's stark, it's very public. We're talking fatal accidents in the headlines, a public that's getting more and more distrustful, and this really tricky problem of drivers just not paying attention.
And believe me, this isn't just some theoretical debate. This quote, it's from a real incident up in Washington State. And it just crystallizes the whole problem. It's the tragic human cost that fuels all that public fear and, of course, gets the regulators paying very close attention.
Okay, so that's the dilemma. But why? Why is the public so incredibly skeptical? Well, the analysis we're looking at points to two really deep-seated reasons. One is all about the physical technology itself, and the other, it's about the ethics that we're trying to program into these machines.
And when I say skeptical, I mean massively skeptical. Get this, a recent Forbes advisor poll found that a staggering 93% of people have concerns about self-driving cars. 93%! That just goes to show you, public trust isn't just a hurdle, it's the single biggest mountain this technology has to climb.
Okay, so the first issue is all about tangible safety. The technology itself has some known limitations. And a really key debate in the industry, which you can see here, is the whole choice between camera-only systems, that's Tesla's approach, which can have a tough time with things like depth perception and tricky lighting, versus LiDAR systems. Those use lasers to build this super detailed 3D map of the world, and they just tend to perform better in a wider range of conditions.
And look, it's not just about the type of sensor. The real world is just chaotic. As you can see here, heavy rain or fog can basically blind these systems. Or what about some random debris on the road, where another driver's suddenly swerving? Those things present a massive challenge, and it's exactly that unpredictability that really fuels public doubt.
Okay, so let's move on to the second concern. This one's a bit more abstract, but honestly, it's just as important. We're talking about ethics. When a crash is completely unavoidable, how in the world do you program a machine to make a life or death choice? I mean, this is the classic trolley problem, but it's been updated for the age of AI.
So, some researchers at MIT actually explored this with something called the moral machine experiment. They presented these ethical dilemmas to millions of people, and the results? They were absolutely fascinating. They found these huge variations in what people thought was the right choice, depending on where they were in the world. And that just raises this massive question, right? If we humans can't even agree on a universal moral code for a crash, how can we possibly expect a programmer to just code one into a car?
Okay, so you've got these tangible safety doubts and deep ethical questions. With all of that complex stuff swirling around, how does a company like Tesla even begin to form a coherent strategy to deal with it all?
Well, the paper proposes using the strategic tool called the IA3 framework. The easiest way to think about it is like a playbook. It's a method for mapping out all the forces at play that aren't just about direct business competition. We're talking about things like public opinion, government regulation, and all the media coverage.
And when you apply this framework to Tesla's whole situation, you get a really clear map. The issues? Well, that's safety and ethics. The actors involved are everyone from Tesla itself to regulators like the NHTSA, the public, and consumer groups. Their interests are often in conflict, right? You've got market share versus public safety. These battles all play out in different arenas. Think media reports, government hearings, even social media. They're all fueled by information, like accident data and public opinion polls. And finally, Tesla has its own assets to bring to the table, like its powerful brand recognition and just a vast amount of fleet data.
So what about this number, 46? Well, it represents a cultural score for something called uncertainty avoidance. In the US, that score is pretty low compared to the world average. That means the culture here is generally more open to risk and new tech. So the fact that distrust in autonomous vehicles is still so high, even in a pretty risk-tolerant society, well, that really shows you just how deep these safety and ethical concerns actually run.
Okay, so how do you take all that analysis and actually build a strategy from it? Well, this is where the paper proposes a really concrete, multi-year blueprint for action, a way to tackle these issues head-on.
So the proposed strategy is built around these 5 core pillars. It all starts with building partnerships and increasing transparency, collaboration and honesty. From there, it moves into public education and even advocating for smart regulation. And the whole thing is underpinned by leveraging data to constantly get better. The point is, it's a holistic approach, not just some new marketing campaign.
And let me be clear, this is definitely not a quick fix. The whole strategy is designed to unfold over several years. You see, it starts with a foundational phase, just building partnerships and being more transparent. Then that's followed by a multi-year push on education. And all the while, running in parallel and way into the future are these crucial ongoing processes, using data to improve and constantly monitoring what the public is thinking. And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most important part of the whole strategy, the idea that improvement has to be a permanent, transparent process. You don't just solve trust and walk away. You have to earn it, and you have to keep earning it every single day.
So to do this, the paper suggests adopting a philosophy you might have heard of called Kaizen. It's a Japanese business concept, and it's all about making small, continuous, iterative improvements over time. The whole idea is that all these constant small steps forward eventually lead to massive progress. So think evolution, not revolution. And here's how you could actually apply Kaizen in the real world. Tesla's massive fleet generates an incredible amount of data, right? So instead of just reacting after an accident happens, they could use all that data to proactively study near misses, to find weaknesses, use it to detect and get rid of potential AI biases, and just constantly refine the algorithms to make them smoother and safer.
The paper draws a really interesting parallel to the airline industry. Think back to the Boeing 737 MAX crisis. The public needed serious reassurance. A company like Airbus understood that they had to prioritize and publicly demonstrate an absolute commitment to safety above everything else. That was the only way to maintain trust. And that exact same principle applies here.
Of course, you can't just launch a strategy and, hope it works. You have to measure your progress, constantly. This means creating a real feedback loop, tracking public opinion polls, analyzing what people are saying on social media, continuously tracking accident data, and keeping an eye on media reports for any new concerns that pop up.
So ultimately, if you were to boil this entire strategy down to just one core idea, it would be this. Regaining trust is not a PR stunt. It's a long-term, sustained process. It means you have to work with others, you have to be radically transparent about the system's limitations, and, most importantly, you have to prove, with data, that the technology is constantly getting safer.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Even with the best, most transparent, most collaborative strategy in the world, what does it truly take for us as humans to actually let go of the wheel and place our trust in an algorithm that, let's face it, will never be perfect? It can only ever be better.